So you talk about where this area formula comes from for a trapezoid now. I'm going to go back up. We've talked about mid-segments for a minute here. So a trapezoid can be cut a couple different ways. I'm going to cut it diagonally here to show you that a trapezoid is really just two different triangles. Essentially, the area is the sum of two triangles. And I'd ask you, how do you find the area of a triangle? Well, that's base times height divided by 2. Now, because they're two different triangles and they have two different base lengths, this is the base of the yellow triangle, that's the base of the blue triangle. I'm going to want to clarify that, so I'm going to call this base 1. The other triangle, I'm going to call that base 2, just so I have two different ones to distinguish between those, the yellow and the blue triangles. If I want to find the total area of this, I'd have to also know the height. And I'd probably ask class, where would you draw the height of the yellow triangle? Most people would draw it here. Now, what do you notice about the length of this height here? And then I'd say, where's the height of the blue triangle? People would struggle with that a little bit. The height of the blue triangle can be measured anywhere. Most people would measure it from this top point here downwards. I know I'm going backwards here, but this direction. Wherever you measure this height, it's going to be the same. So these two triangles have the exact same height. Different bases, but the exact same height. So if I was trying to find the total area of this whole thing, I could draw it here, I could draw it here, I could draw it here. It doesn't matter. That length, that height is going to be exactly the same either way. So the yellow triangle has an area of 1/2 base 2 times height. The blue triangle has an area of 1/2 base 1 times its height. This is technically the area of a trapezoid formula. It can be cleaned up a little bit, and those of you who know how to factor can easily clean this up a little bit. What do you see as common factors here? And you probably notice that the 1/2 is common. So I'm going to factor the 1/2 out. What else do you see as common with these two triangles? H is common. So I'm going to take the 1/2 and the H out of there. It makes it look a little nicer. This is another formula you could use for the area of a trapezoid. I personally, I don't like this one even as much as I like this last one I'm going to show you. I'm just going to switch these two around to call it 1/2 of base 1 plus base 2 times the height. It kind of follows a format of base times height, just like rectangles and triangles. It also gives you another way to see this. If I take the two bases and add them together and divide it by 2, that's how you find a midsegment. So if you just took 16 plus 10, there's base 1 and base 2, divide it by 2, you get 13. That's giving you this length. That's giving you that part of the formula. You could just multiply that by the height. Another version, which some people seem to really like, is M times H. And M, of course, would stand for the midsegment. Some people love this. Some people love this. I don't care which one of these versions, frankly, you like. These are the two better formats. Pick one. Get used to using it. Have it jotted down so you have it handy, maybe on a formula sheet somewhere. But that's what we're going to be using, these two formulas here, to try these next couple problems. So I'm going to give you some numbers here one at a time. Give that blue one a try. This, again, given here is these are all trapezoids. That's a right angle, that's a right angle, that's a right angle, that's a right angle, if you want that as a given piece of information. Oh, great, my kids are yelling in the back. Hopefully you don't hear that. So, pause this thing if you haven't already done so, give it a try. Eventually, you'll see the trapezoid can be turned. That's base 1, that's base 2, or vice versa, but here's your bases. 15 is not a height, it's just a side. This is technically the height of the trapezoid. And yeah, you could cut this into a triangle if you wanted to. I'm going to focus on using trapezoid formulas here. If you were to cut this off, the 20 would be cut into 11 and 9. And you could use a little bit of Pythagorean theorem here. 9 something 15 would give you eventually 12 there. That would be 12, or this is 12. You can think of it either way. Cutting in either direction on there. Now you've got all the information you need. Now just to remind you of the directions here, find the mid-segment length. Mid-segment would go this direction, parallel with the bases. So 20 plus 11 is 31, half of 31, 15.5, I believe, for the mid-segment length. And then once you have the mid-segment length, 15.5, just multiply by your height, multiply by 12. So hopefully you get an area of 186 square somethings. And as I said, that's some numbers shot up here on the middle one. Feel free to give that one a try. Pause this thing and go for it. And just like we had emphasized in the previous section, the key for all of these things is to sketch in an altitude in the right spot. You're going to want that. This 40 degrees is not helpful unless you chop this little piece off here and find this piece and find that piece. Whoa, technical difficulties. I'll come back in the next section here and go after that one.